Resourceful Designer, episode 273, The Many Personalities of a Freelance Designer.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. Ever since he got his second monitor, he can't recall how he ever worked with just one. Mark Dickote.
Yep, I got mine as a fluke. It was actually a friend of mine was getting rid of an old monitor. He was going to throw it out or donate it, and I asked him if I can have it. And luckily I had a cable sitting around that worked. I plugged it in, and since that day, I've loved having two monitors. Actually, the only issue I have is my second monitor right now is only a 22-inch next to my 27-inch iMac. I really want to get a bigger second monitor just for the extra real estate. But I'm also going to hold off because I hear rumors that next year they're coming out with a 32-inch iMac. And if that's the case, I might hold off and get an even bigger second monitor. And if you haven't tried it yet, I highly suggest you get a second one. It makes it so much easier to put stuff off on the second monitor that you need access to, but you don't really want it to take up real estate on your main monitor. Anyways, in this week's episode of the podcast, I'm going to discuss what personalities you need in order to run your own design business. But before I get to that, I just want to remind you that the doors for signing up for the Resourceful Designer community will be closing at the end of October. If you're listening to this at the time that I release it, there's only a couple of weeks left. I will be closing the doors after October 31st and not opening it up to new members until sometime in February. I'm doing this so I can take stock and figure out some stuff with the community in order to make it the best place for designers to hang out. Now, I already think that it's a great place. The friendships we're making within the community are amazing. People are helping each other out. They're hiring each other to do projects. They're collaborating on things. They're helping people out. We're acting as advisors, as critiquers, as confidants, as accountability partners, the whole bit. It really is a tight-knit community. And as many of people have told me, they attribute the growth of their design business to membership in the Resourceful Designer community. Now, if you're looking for a great group of people to hang out with, to share ideas, to get advice from, and all of that, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/community and join today before doors close at the end of October. And now, the many personalities of a freelance designer. Let me ask you a question. Does being a designer, either a graphic designer, a web designer, or a UX or UI, or whatever you want to call yourself, a designer, does being a designer qualify you to run your own design business? Now, some people may say yes. After all, is there really any difference between designing something for an employer or for an employer's clients than there is to designing something for your own clients? Not really. I'll concede that the design skills that you use are the same in both instances. Your knowledge of Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever program you use will benefit you in both cases. However, just because the design skills are the same doesn't qualify a designer to run their own design business. Does education play into it? Is someone who went to design school somehow more qualified to run their own design business than someone who learned their skills on their own? Well, the school-taught designer may have some business credits under their belt, but arguably, an educational background or lack thereof doesn't qualify or disqualify a designer from running their own business. No, in my opinion, and I do understand that this is my opinion, and I could be wrong, but it's still my opinion, is that what differentiates a designer who is qualified to run their own design business and one who isn't is personality. Or, more accurately, personalities. Last week in the episode, I told you that there were two roles to running a design business, that of a designer and that of a business owner. Well, that's a very simplified approach, and it worked for last week's episode. But the truth of the matter is, there are way more than just two roles to running a successful design business. To do it right, you need to have many personalities. And I'm not just talking about the obvious ones, the layout artist, the typesetter, the proofreader, the illustrator, the color picker, the photo retoucher, the coder, the art director, and so on and so on and so on. Just being a designer means you should be somewhat proficient, or at least have some working knowledge of some, if not all, of these skills I just mentioned. You've heard me say many times on this podcast that I'm not an illustrator, but that doesn't mean I can't draw. I can. I'm just not that good at it. My drawing skills are marginal at best, but they've gotten me out of several pinches over the years. No, skills like these are something that every designer needs to be acquainted with, regardless of whether they are working for someone else or they're self-employed. When I say that a design business owner has to have many personalities, I'm thinking much deeper than that. In most situations, a self-employed or a freelance designer, if you will develop a much deeper relationship with their clients than someone employed as a designer somewhere. The relationship is deeper because it's their client. When I used to work at the print shop, I worked with many regular clients, some of them for years, and most of them I got along with extremely well. But regardless of how well we worked together, they weren't my clients. They were the print shop's clients. And when I left the print shop to start my own full-time design business, almost all of those clients that I worked with remained there and were simply assigned a new designer to work with. Only a handful of them followed me to my new business. And you know what? The relationships we had formed at the print shop grew exponentially once they were actually my clients. Why is that? It's because I was invested in them in a way that I never was at the print shop. For one thing, when I was at the print shop, if something went wrong with a client project, I might get some of the blame, but it's the print shop's reputation that took the major hit. And if something went right, like say a design won an award, which happened on several occasions, the designer would get an honorable mention, but it was the print shop that got most of the recognition. Whereas once I was on my own and they became my clients as opposed to the print shop's clients, I was much more invested in them because anything that went wrong reflected directly on me, which could affect my business. And when anything went right, it just meant more recognition for me. But I'm starting to drift back towards the design part of the job. And once again, that part can be done by any designer. But the business side, however, that side requires something special. It requires the designer to put their many personalities to use in building and strengthening the relationships with their clients. Now, you're probably wondering what the heck I'm talking about, so let me describe some of the many personalities a design business owner must have. Psychologist. Just like how a practicing psychologist is trained to assess and diagnose problems in thinking, feeling, and behavior in order to help people overcome or manage their problems, a freelance designer must do the same with their clients. It's your job to assess and diagnose and find a way to overcome the problem or problems that your clients are facing. In many cases, the problems your clients think they are facing may not actually be the problem. And you must use your psychology skills to weed through and decipher everything the client tells you in order to figure out the root of the real problem. Only then can you offer them the proper solution. Now, many designers will give a client what they want. Well, you should strive to be better than that by giving the client not what they want, but what they need. And your psychologist personality can help you with that. Mediator. A mediator's job is to facilitate a conversation between two or more people to help them resolve a dispute. A mediator is trained to establish and maintain a safe, confident, communicative process and to help participants reach an agreement on their own. If you've ever had to present a proposal to a committee, I can almost guarantee that your mediator personality was front and center. As mediator, your job is to ensure that all involved parties come to an agreement on how a design project is to proceed. Now, this may involve getting clients to compromise on certain aspects of a project, as well as convincing them to let certain ideas go. Without this agreement between all parties, any design project is doomed to struggle. It's your job as the designer to ensure that everyone is satisfied, and your mediator personality can help you with that. Negotiator. Similar to the mediator, a negotiator's job is to communicate with clients, to negotiate and establish sales, all while building positive relationships in the process. Your negotiator skills will come in especially handy when pitching larger projects. A client may love your ideas, but not so much the price tag associated with those ideas. As negotiator, it's your job to show the client why your proposal is worth the investment on their part, and to convince them that it's not an expense, it is an investment. And should the price of the project still remain a deciding factor, your negotiating skills will allow you to cut back on parts of your proposal in a way that still satisfies the client's needs and, more importantly, meets the client's budget. Your negotiator personality can help you with all that. Salesperson. A salesperson's job is to find prospective clients, identify their challenges and needs, and ultimately find them a solution. Anytime you correspond with a potential new client, it's your salesperson personality that's talking. This personality's job is to build trust and ultimately convince a potential client of the benefit of working with you. This personality is the one that should be front and center anytime you're out networking or anytime someone asks you what you do or they inquire about your business and services. The more adept you are with your salesperson personality, the more successful your design business will be. Babysitter. Normally, you think of a babysitter as someone in charge of taking care of someone else's child or children. Their responsibilities include making sure the children are safe, that they get the care and attention they deserve, and that they adhere to the parents' standards. Think of the assets that your clients bestow to you as their children, because in a way they are. Their logo, their images, their brand assets and styling are all entrusted to you. You are responsible to ensure that they are taken care of, that they are kept safe, that they get the attention they deserve, and that they adhere to the client's standards. Now, in some cases, you are the one who developed those standards, but often enough, you will be entrusted with your client's quote-unquote children and expected to take care of them. Your babysitter personality better be up to the task. Researcher. A researcher's job is to collect, organize, analyze, and interpret data and opinions to explore issues, solve problems, and predict trends. Sound familiar? If you've ever held a discovery meeting with a client, or have investigated a client's target market or competition, you are using your researcher personality. Nurturing this personality is crucial to your growth as a designer and as a business owner. The more you can learn about your clients, their strengths and weaknesses, the markets they're in, the hurdles and challenges they face, the competition they're up against, the benefits they offer, how they can differentiate themselves, the more you can learn about all of this, the better equipped you will be at doing your job. Not to mention the higher prices you'll be able to charge. It was Abraham Lincoln who said, "If I only had an hour to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 45 minutes sharpening my axe." Well, think of research as that first 45 minutes. The better and more thorough you do it, the easier the rest of your tasks will be. That's where your researcher personality comes in. Educator. A teacher is someone who instructs. Their job is to ensure someone knows the outcome of whatever it is they're teaching. An educator, on the other hand, is someone who gives intellectual, moral, and social instructions. In other words, an educator doesn't only want you to know the outcome, they want you to understand the reason for the outcome. It's the difference between telling a client their idea won't work and explaining to the client why a different approach may be a better option. The more you can educate a client in how design works, the better they'll become as clients. Not only that, But the more you educate your clients, the higher they'll regard and trust your opinions. If you want to build a deep and lasting relationship with your clients, don't teach them, educate them. They'll thank you, or should I say, they'll thank your educator personality for the knowledge. Now, I could go on and on and on. There are so many personalities involved with running a design business. Some days you may have to be a coach, some days a counselor. You regularly need to be a tactician in order to keep track of your ever-evolving schedule. And at times you may become an advisor or a consultant to your clients. And if you're really lucky, you may become a confidant. Now, of course, you don't actually switch between one personality or another. They should all be present in some capacity in every client dealing you have. They're what make you who you are, after all. Your goal should be to nurture each one of these personalities in order to become the best, most rounded design business owner you can be. And with all these personalities backing you up, you become a force to reckon with. And clients will be begging to work with you. Now, I started this episode by saying what qualifies a designer to run their own design business are these many personalities. And I kind of hinted that designers who work for someone else may lack these personalities and therefore not make good design business owners. But that's not true. I believe everyone has these and many more personalities within them. It's only a matter of accessing them and nurturing them. Just like a muscle, if you don't use it, it will atrophy. So will these personalities. If you work at an agency or you work for some company in their design department, and someone else deals directly with the clients or someone else is making the decisions and just asking you to design it, so you're not directly involved with the decision making, if that's the case, you'll have little chance to practice your selling skills, and you'll probably never get a chance to negotiate with a client or mediate a committee. I want you to be aware that there are skills you will need should you ever want to become a freelancer. And if you are not using those skills, you may have a difficult time at the start. But fear not, just like a muscle, the more you work at it, the stronger it becomes. And it's the same for running a design business. The more you work at it, the better you'll become. After all, you have to start somewhere, and that's where your optimist personality comes in. Now, I would love to hear from you. What sort of personalities do you think are essential to run a design business? Let me know. Send me an email at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com. I would love to hear from you. So that's it for me. Another episode in the books. I hope things are going well for you as we're rounding down this year, 2021. Man, I can't believe that 2022 is just a couple of months away, and yet it still feels like we're trying to get over 2020. Wow, what a weird couple of years we've had. But I hope things are going well and that your business is growing, if not thriving. And if not, stick in there. If you put in the effort, it will pay off. And if you need help or guidance, you can always join the Resourceful Designer community at resourcefuldesigner.com/community. And the rest of us in there will be happy to help you. So that's it for me this week. I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best with your design business and all the many personalities you put into it. And I want to remind each one of those personalities to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.